So overall, the U.S., as we've seen, is by far the largest donor overall for bilateral assistance, multilateral, the largest donor in the world for foreign aid, $30 billion. But compared to U.S. income, which has increased over the years, aid levels have fallen over the past 40. There have been a number of increases in foreign aid, very significant ones due to PEPFAR and MCC, and debt relief to various countries for lots of strategic reasons, Iraq, Nigeria, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. Here's a chart similar to the other one that I just showed you. This is slightly different, however. This is, again, done by OECD, of official development assistance in the same year as the previous chart. The previous chart was on volume. This is on ODA as a percentage of GNI. GNI means gross national income. So based on the economy of the country, the income, the economy, this is the percentage of the country's income that is spent on foreign aid. And here you'll see a very different picture. The U.S. is here at 0.20. Countries like Scandinavia, and I think you remember earlier that I'd mentioned in our discussion of the various players that the Scandinavian countries are known to be very much focused on improving foreign aid and in particular through multilateral channels. The OECD, that is the member, the countries around the world who are the main donors to development and humanitarian assistance, many years ago decided that there should be a target, and this was discussed in UN forum, and that countries should have a target of 0.7%, so 0.7% of their GNI, at least that amount should be going towards ODA. This was the agreement. And all countries generally agreed that this should be a goal that they should strive for. It wasn't any obligation. There were no particular treaties signed that forced countries to do this. On average, most countries are at 0.48. And you can see again, there's a lot of countries that are ahead of the U.S., which is way down on the chart. Keep in mind again that the U.S. is by far the largest donor in terms of volume, but one of the smaller donors in terms of the abilities to pay, or you could say even to pay more based on the income GNI of the country. So U.S. ODA as a percentage of gross national income then, this is U.S. specific, taking that same chart and going further into detail, is how over the years has the percentage of foreign aid increased or decreased based on U.S. GNI. And you can see from the 60s, it was at 0.6, almost at the UN target level that the OECD countries had agreed to at 0.7. It was almost there back in the 60s, and it's dropped down to much lower levels in the early years of this century, and it's slightly gone up now in 04, 06. This is mainly due to PEPFAR and MCC. To give you an idea of how donors program the ODA which they are contributing, the darker blue area is bilateral, so that's through their own government bilateral aid programs, so in this case USAID. The dark blue, you can see that has increased a bit over the years, but that is also the largest area as well. That's the largest percentage is bilateral. There's a slightly smaller level, maybe you could say half that band above, which is the lighter blue, which is the multilateral ODA, so that's going through the UN system and the World Bank and the IMF. There's humanitarian aid, and that programming level looks fairly constant, but it will ebb and flow depending on the emergencies out there in the world today. And then there are debt forgiveness grants, which are basically grants, money provided to countries to forgive their debts. It's considered ODA, but it's not specifically really foreign aid in the traditional sense that we would think of it. But you can see, by and large, most countries over the years put their money through their own bilateral agencies, which will again make sure for them that their key priorities are followed in terms of their foreign policy objectives.